and welcome to 9 to 42, the podcast from the team at the Guitar Show UK. Join us for interviews, updates and chat with artists, influencers and those that manufacture the gear that we love. Hello and welcome to another episode of 9 to 42, the podcast from the guys behind the Guitar Show UK. Jason Hunt, my co-host, is looking absolutely resplendent on screen. How are you, Jace?
I'm very well, Ant. How are you?
I'm really well. I will divulge that you're sipping a daiquiri.
I am, yes.
Based mainly on the fact that this is about the fifth time we've tried to do this 5-minute intro, and we've been having internet woes, haven't we?
We have, and I went to Cuba last year on holiday and fell in love with daiquiris. So I ploughing through the many litres that we brought back with us, which were incredibly cheap in Cuba. It was like £5 for a litre of rum.
Oh, it's a bit like when you go to Spain and you're picking up bottles of bourbon for less than a tenner. Yeah. Which is quite magical. Anyway, we digress, as is our want pretty much most of the time. So tonight, or today, or in this episode, it started off as today, we've got an interview with, and I'll let you do the introduction,
Glen Matlock.
Glen Matlock, which was fairly spectacular, actually, if I say so myself.
Yeah, it was really good. I didn't know really what to expect. I've read his book a couple of times. I Was a Teenage Sex Pistol, and he does come across quite well in the book and quite down to earth. But you never know. But he was brilliant.
Oh, absolutely fantastic! Absolutely fantastic. How do you know him then?
Well, I don't. One of my fellow tutors at BIM Birmingham does PR for him, and we talked in the staff room sort of over coffee about trying to get Glenn along to the guitar show at some point. And then I got an email that he was doing some stuff for BIM, and did anybody else want him to do anything? And it just seemed like the perfect opportunity, really. And of course, it ended up being far more than Glenn. It ended up being a 2-for-1 because Earl Slick was in lockdown, living with Glenn at the moment in London.
Yeah, that really was surreal. To have the two of them in the same space at the same time, particularly the way they bounced off each other.
Yeah, I mean, clearly they're really good mates, aren't they?
Yeah, really good mates. And it was, it felt a little bit like eavesdropping, but not in a bad way.
Not in a stalker kind of way.
Not in a stalker kind of way. No, it was just, fantastic. So, without any further ado, for once, we'll go straight in. And we'll play the interview, and then we'll have a little bit of natter at the end.
All right, see you in a bit.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, there we go. Good.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right actually. I've been quite busy. So
this is Ant.
hello, Ant.
Morning, Glenn. How are you?
Good. Well, I've got my coffee as well. Look, I just nipped round the corner.
Oh wow, you've still got places that are open and serving.
A few places, a takeaway only. We've got a good little scene going on round the corner. There's the mid-morning coffee club. Paul Weller lives round the corner. I bump into him most days, and
wow,
a few other people. We just sit there socially distanced from each other.
So where are you in London?
Maida Vale.
Right, okay.
It's informal, isn't it? I can sit back and relax.
Yes, you can do whatever you like.
It's not right to be on show, but I'm not, so I'm going to...
Great poster, by the way.
Oh, that's an original one. I got that. There was a place, Westbourne Grove in London, about 12 years ago, and I got caught in a rainstorm. It really pissed down, and I was sheltering in a poster shop. And they got all these really good posters in there, like Fellini and 8.5 and Alfred Hitchcock, and I had to kind of buy some time in there. So I said, can I help you? And I said, yeah, how much is that one? And this is like 10, maybe 15 years ago. He said, Fellini one? He said, well, it is an original. I said, yeah, but how much is it? 12 grand. I went, what? Right, and then how much is that Hitchcock one? No, that's 15. I went, what? I thought, how am I going to get out of this and keep dry? And I said, you haven't got the Rebel, Tony Hancock, here, and he went, "Ooh, I might have it." He went out the back and had a flick through. And he said, "We got one." I said, "How much?" He said, £500. And I thought, that's it. So, that's probably my all-time favourite movie. Have you seen it?
I've not seen it. I've not seen it.
It's a real savage indictment of the art world, and it still applies today.
I will. Well, it's funny because I stayed in a hotel in Cambridge last year, about this time last year, and they had a fantastic full-size poster for The Man in the White Suit.
Oh, right, okay.
And that was on the other day. It's on the iPlayer at the moment.
Right.
And I sat because I love the Ealing comedies, and I sat and watched that the other day, and it's that's still got a message now.
Yeah.
Really powerful. But that was
corporate greed and could have been made by the Luddites, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so that was quite I had a nice afternoon. About the only thing I've watched, actually. I thought I'd be watching loads of television. I've hardly watched anything.
I've just been doing. I put a few things up online to try and sell some merch.
Right.
So it's gone bonkers, and I spent a week writing out envelopes and packing things and cross-referencing orders and doing kind of runs to the post office. And I got a little post office round the corner. This Indian lady runs it, and I just drop everything off with my mask in, and she fills it all out. But they're not accepting. They're not having deliveries from there, so they stamp it, and then I'll go round local post boxes at dusk and like some clandestine. But going back to The Man in the White Suit, here's my trivia question today. Do you know why saboteurs are called saboteurs?
No.
Right. And there's computing is involved in this as well, since we're online, because there was I think it was the Jacquard looms in France.
Yeah.
Which made cloth. There's a special jacquard kind of design.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But the way it worked was on punch cards.
Okay.
That told the needles where to go.
Yeah, where to go.
And Ada Lovelace, who was not a porn star, but she worked with Charles Babbage, was his sidekick. But they took her seriously because she was a woman back then. But she knew this and saw its potential as punch cards for telling how Charles Babbage's universal adding machine could be told what to do by cards. And he never made it because they didn't have the technology. They sort of made something out of wood. But then, round the corner from me is a hotel where Alan Turing was born. And he remembered this whole story, and he used that in the Second World War for his machine.
His machine.
Going back to the saboteurs, they didn't like it. So the people who worked in the jacquard mills, when this technology came in, which was put them out of work, they tried to destroy the things, and they destroyed it by putting their wooden clogs in the machinery. And in French, they're called sabots. So they were saboteurs.
Mm-hmm. All right.
So I'm just going to get that and tell them to go away.
Okay.
There you go. So that's all for me getting out of telling you what I don't know about guitars.
No, we're not going to talk about guitars at all.
No, when we started this off, we're far more interested in the people behind everything, the people behind the music. This isn't a nerdy go through your gear and everything in sequence and what patch do you set this to and things like that, because it doesn't really work for either you or me, does it, Jason?
Not really. No. I know a little bit about that, but yeah, not a lot. So yeah, all right. Then.
You were supposed to be on tour round about now, weren't you? So
well, I should have been on tour and finished. I was going to go. I toured with them about a year and a half ago, Dropkick Murphys, and they invited me to do their big St. Patrick's Day show in Boston, just in the big opening up. I did a band tour with Earl, who was in the other room. About a month back we finished. Then I was going to do some solo shows, and then that got pulled, and then I was supposed to go to Canada, do a couple of shows, and then go back through the Northeast and end up in New York, where I was going to sit in on the mixing of my new album, which is still being mixed now, and then just hang out in New York at my mate's place. Mike Thorne, produced Tainted Love.
Oh,
yes.
right, okay.
Yeah.
Very kindly puts me up. And he was the guy who signed the Sex Pistols to EMI. He was the junior A&I.
Right, okay.
Oh, guy there. And so I was going to do that, and I was being offered more solo shows, which I like doing. So I was going to be doing all of that, and now I'm not doing nothing.
Apart from sorting out your merch orders, how are you spending your days?
Well, that's taken up quite a lot of time. I've had a good clear out of stuff. It's, I've been shredding old bank statements from like 7 years ago. I jet washed the patio out the back and then run out the front, and I missed some bits out the back again, so I had to go back and do that. And I missed some bits out the front, so I had to go and do that again. Bought a push bike, but it's an electric one, so it helps you up the hills a bit. But you still got to pedal it quite a bit, which is good. Stuff.
And you said Earl's in the other room.
Yeah.
So is he literally camping out then?
He didn't really want to go back to the States after the thing. But I'll let him tell you about that. You're going to speak to him afterwards.
Yeah.
So he's here.
So have you had any thoughts to do, because a lot of artists have been doing things virtually, doing little kind of...
Well, I know what you're going to say, and I've been asked to do a couple of things. I'm still musing it. Right. Look, see... Right, this is the other side of my room. See that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Paint's coming off, right? So that needs scraping off and then toshing up the whole place. And just before the lockdown was announced, I could see it coming. I went round the corner and bought 2 weeks' worth of white emulsion. Now, Earl has kindly offered to help me with it. So I thought instead of doing an acoustic show, we could be me and him up the ladder and do a YouTube video of that with maybe Right Said Fred playing in the back. Because we've got a very good Walter Matthau, Jack Lemmon kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
I'm Jack Lemmon.
Well, it's
and
by the way, Jack Lemmon is up there as one of the greatest comic actors of all time, if not, as good as anybody.
And you know what's good about him?
Go on.
Time.
Should have seen that coming.
Yeah.
But Jason and I did talk a little bit about whether there'd be a little bit of a men behaving badly thing going on, whether you would actually be filming some of your day to day, because it would probably make really good content.
Maybe. I don't know. I think people shouldn't be so nosy, though, to be honest.
Right. Well, you'd have to choose to do it. But no, it's fine.
You can give too much of yourself away,
Yeah. I think the idea of the two of you painting around the house and listening to the chatter.
You
missed it.
Work. No, I haven't. Yes, you have. Look, do it properly.
So you're still musing on the idea of doing something from the house then?
Yeah. Well, I'm doing this now. I've done a couple of things. I've got a couple more things. I've been asked to do some sort of smaller BBC things to raise money for buses for essential workers to sleep in.
Right.
I'm going to do that on Saturday. A little bit trepidated because I haven't really done one of those. But I'd never done a Zoom thing before until I did that talk thing the other day, and I quite enjoyed it. And it was a lot easier than I thought. So, I mean, the only drag is that tail end of last year and earlier this year over Christmas, we made an album, and which is, I got the last mix through yesterday, but there's probably a few tweaks online, so I've been doing it online. But it's sod's law, because I should have been out touring then and been making the album now. But
I was listening to a podcast, literally yesterday, with a guy from the band Gomez, and he was talking about how devastating this is going to be for musicians, simply because as far as where he was at, touring and merch is the only place to make any kind of money.
Yeah, basically. I mean, that's where I'm at, what I'm doing now. I mean, luckily I have a bit of money coming in. It's not a fortune from stuff I've done in the past. But I mean, the only, so I feel like I'm almost starting over each time we put a new album out. It's like you're almost back to square one again, almost. But the one saving grace is that everybody's in the same boat.
Yeah.
So it's a level playing field, really,
And how are you able to start thinking about future dates. I mean, we've also heard that there's literally people are scrambling now to book venues for the end of this year and next year. Everybody's kind of rolling.
They are, and I had a few things in that have been moved back to September, and then they moved back to somewhere else, and then moved back. And then there's a pecking order with things, you know. And I'll be trying to keep all the dates for their bigger kind of definite pools, so you get involved in that. But I mean, I've got dates at the end of September, October, November. I've been asked to go to Russia, but whether it's going to happen or not, I'll just say, yeah, all right then. You know, and then we'll see. I mean, perhaps it will work, but I personally, even if the Faces, my all-time favourite band, were the original people, you know, just perchance say it was the original lineup, and all the guys who died weren't died, and they were playing round the corner tomorrow night, I'd be in two minds about going. It's my all-time favourite band. I'd be in two minds about going because I wouldn't want to be in a room with loads of other sweaty people coughing and spluttering. So I should think everybody's thinking about that. So even if you do gigs after lockdown, how many people are going to go? You know, don't want to be a harbinger of doom, but
no, I think that wasn't a point exact point he made, which was this is going to definitely change how we all feel. I think because of the extension and the period of time that we've been involved in, you are going to be thinking for the next however long, do I want to be in those spaces again?
Yeah, and the other thing and all, with blokes like me, is, you know, gigging and merching, you know, everybody wants you to come out and shake hands and cuddle up to them and have your picture taken. And the last tour we did, we was up in Glasgow, particularly when it really started to become the news that this potentially might be happening. And, you know, I was like kind of cagey about it, but the Glaswegians all want to be your mate, and they've had a good drink, and they don't take it on board that it's not cool, and get stroppy with you when you don't want to stand that close to them, you know. So it's a bit of a conundrum. But, you know, maybe slowly inching through things like this now. It doesn't come that easier to me because I'm a bit older, and I'll try and be tech savvy. But, yeah, a little bit at a time. You know, on Facebook, there's been loads of people singing stuff from their front rooms, and people DJing, and some bloke who's having a drink, and it's got flashing lights. No. So maybe let some of that clear out the way and then find a proper way of doing it a little bit better, you know.
Well, ultimately, creativity is the thing that shines through, isn't it? So there will be loads of content at the moment. I mean, we are tripping over content, but it's the stuff that's well thought through, and it's the stuff that's well produced that ultimately will stand up, and the rest will be forgotten about very quickly. Yeah,
well, we'll see. Yeah.
One of the questions I wanted to ask was that, as you mentioned, the Faces. I'm also a massive Faces fan. You actually replaced Ronnie Lane, didn't you, in the Faces?
Well, I stood in for him.
Stood in for him, yeah.
We didn't do that many. We did about 10 shows altogether, which was a drag. I don't think they went about it the right way. Around about the same time, Motley Hoople were doing some stuff, and they did 5 or 7 nights at
Hammy-Odeon, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I actually opened up for them one show. They had different people supporting. I did an acoustic set and went down quite well, actually. But what happened was people came from all around the world to see them, and because they were already in England, they went every night. And I said to the Faces people, well, you know, you should do something like that. Just do it for the love of it, and it'll show that it's a going concern. That they, you know, they're used to earning hundreds of £1,000s a show with the Stones and Hucknall and all that.
So what's it like though? Because you know, I read your book. You know, I was a teenage Sex Pistol, and you talk at the start of it about how Ronnie Lane was kind of like the inspiration for picking up the bass.
Well, he was, yeah. I mean, amongst others, but he was a big one, yeah.
But what's it like actually, sort of like standing in for, you know, your primary influence?
Well, it was great. It was fantastic. It was a band that when I was 14, I used to stand in front of the mirror, sort of miming when I couldn't really play, to stay with me or something like that. And the last show we did, we played in front of 50,000 people at the Fuji Festival, and I'm in the band. And then Rod didn't do it, but Hucknall was pretty good. But playing with Ronnie and Kenny and Matt and Jesse, who was Ronnie's son, played second guitar. But I'd known Ian McLagan for a long time. He played on the Rich Kids album on a track, and then he did a tour of us, and we got on like house on fire.
I love his book.
Oh yeah, it's great. I think it's one of the best rock books.
Yeah, I think so as well.
There you go.
There you go. Mine's got a different cover. You've got the hardback. I've only got the paperback.
I think I've got a dedicated one as well. No, I haven't, the bugger. Oh, yes, I have. To my old mate Glen, God bless you, mate. Ian McLagan. Oh, yeah.
It's truly one of the best rock books ever written. That and what's the Ian Hunter one?
Oh, Diary of Rock and Roll Star.
Yeah.
Well, I sort of based my book on that, just the style of writing.
Yeah, very chatty.
Yeah.
The highlight of the Ian Hunter one is when they're sat on top of the Riot House in LA and he's got his Woolworth swimming trunks on. It's just kind of...
It's a long time since I've read it now. You have to... There's a bit in a discotheque where some woman wants to have a dance with one of them, and then they soon realise it's not a woman. Bloke. It's the Lola moment.
Yeah.
Well, if we're talking best music biographies, I'm going to have to chuck in Victor Bockris's Keith Richards biography. I think that's fairly stunning.
I've got that and all, but I haven't read it yet. I think that's the best biography of the Stones, actually, effectively. Is that the one that came out not that long ago?
I think they reissued it. It's been out a long time, but they reissued it.
This one's Life, is that it?
No, that's Keith's own one. That's the one that Keith did. That's My Life. Is that My Life or whatever it's called?
Life.
Yeah. No, the Victor Bockris one is that's got to be 25, 30 years old, but it's excellent. It takes you up to about late 80s. I think he's just on the solo albums.
I just had a silly thought that instead of Victor Bockris, it was Victor Bulger. And the punctuation goes. That'd be something, wouldn't it?
That would have been something. So, Jay, should we run through our five? We've started a new thing. Where we've got 5 questions that we're going to ask everybody that does an interview in the lockdown. So, do you want to kick in, Jay?
Okay. So the first question is, what thing in your career are you most proud of?
Oof. There's a few different things. I think some of the songs I've written since the Pistols that maybe not struggle, but it's hard to be taken. Everybody wants to know you for what you used to do, but there's that. Doug playing with Iggy, Doug playing some shows with the Pistols. Love doing the thing with the Faces. I like getting up. I stood in for Manny with Primal Scream. Some tsunami benefit thing 8 years ago. There's lots of different things and things like that. They're all depends what side of bed you get out in the morning. What you think. It's a bit like, what's your favourite record or favourite movie? Well, today it's this. But then also in recent years, I got involved with the DMZ or DMZ Peace Festival, which was on the border of North and South Korea.
Oh yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. I mean, you were the first UK musician to do that.
I think first one of anybody might have heard of, because I'd had it a year or two previously. But I went and met this guy whose nickname is Cha-Cha, and he's like the Paul Weller of South Korea. And so we learnt a few songs together, and then also we had another pickup band, this band called Crying Nut, who are like Korean New York Dolls, but with an accordion. And we did a show, and it went down fantastic. And I'm going to show you something. So we all go up from Seoul to the border on a train with the mayor of Seoul gives this whole speech about international army and stuff like that. And then we get to the village where the thing is. We meet the mayor of the village, and the mayor of Seoul and they know each other. and they're giving a speech which somebody's translating, which basically they're complimenting each other who's still got the most hair left. Right. And then I met the mayor of the village, and they'd obviously not thought this one through, but they thought they'd better give all the artists something. So they gave me that. And it's Pyeongchang Paralympic Games thing. They probably had them all left over in the cupboard. I would give them that. That was fun.
Brilliant.
I love going to Japan. We went and played Fuji Rocks Festival last summer with the whole band. Went down really well, you know. So yeah, stuff like that.
Cool. So, if you could have dinner with 3 other people, doesn't have to be music, who would it be?
Oh, right. Well, it all depends what side of bed you get out of. Anthony Newley, Tommy Still, Catherine Hepburn.
Nice.
That's not a bad list at all. That.
Yeah.
So, what's the best gig you've ever been to?
Oh, well, again, that depends. I think the one I really dug the most was seeing Humble Pie. The only time I saw him live in Hyde Park supporting Grand Funk Railroad, and blew him off stage. That was fantastic.
When was that?
When Peter Frampton was in the band, 71.
Right. Okay.
3 thing maybe. Peter Frampton was still in the band, and he looked like a complete rock star. He had like an O'Donnell loom pants suit, you know, with tulip lapels and tan-coloured, what you call them, Cuban Hill boots, and his hair was blowing in the wind. I mean, I'm not a big Pete Frampton fan, but he looked fantastic. But Marriott was so good. You know, he did that thing where they turn the PA off and you could still hear him right at the back. That was cool. Seeing the Faces at Wembley, which I bought a ticket for when I was about 15. I had no idea who the support band was, but went early to get me money's worth.
That was the Dolls, wasn't it?
The Dolls, yeah, and it was the original Dolls. And that was, I'd heard of them then because I'd started working for Malcolm McLaren, and they'd not long played Beavers. Malcolm McLaren and, what's his name? Mr. Freedom. I forget his name for the time being. He had City Lights, and he managed Kilburn and the Arrows. I can't think of his name for the second. But they'd been going on about it. But I was a bit too young to go to Beavers then and happened to go. So I'd heard about the New York Dolls. And it was the original band with Billy Dole on the drums.
Yeah. Oh, was that the tour when he died? Didn't he die in London?
He died about a week or two after that. Yeah. I was playing with Iggy Pop in Chicago, and we did 4 or 5 nights in this sort of big club, small theatre, and we had a night off, and on the night off, James Brown went and played. So I got in for free with this young lady I was knocking around with, and we were the only 2 white people there, and everybody, all the black guys were like superflies. It was all like something out of, you know that movie American Gangster?
Yeah.
That was pretty fantastic. Selfridges, a few years back, I went to a gig. Some Selfridges had been shut down in London, or a particular bit of it, and I was annoyed because it was the bit where you could get traditional like string vests and night shirts and things like that. And somebody said, "There's a thing going on." So I said, "Come down." I don't know how to go there. I come down, it's in that bit. I went down, and there was all these people milling around, you know, when the store had shut. And there's like Chrome Hearts and Louis Vuitton, like concession stalls set up. You know, everything you don't really need. And all of a sudden, the bloke in charge goes, "Right, everybody." He said, "Thank you for coming down. Now, I don't know if you realise, but we've called this section of the store the Wonder Room." And he's standing in front of the curtain. He said, "I won't say too much, but we got a special guest for you." And he pulled the curtain open, Stevie Wonder. And he did like a 35-minute solo set on a piano. And I was really, you know, I was 8 foot away from him. And I could hear 2 women singing along all behind me, knew all the words. I turned around, and it was Cilla Black and Joan Collins having a sing-along, having a girls' night out together. It was fantastic. Stevie Wonder in Selfridges. And you know what? We probably didn't even realise he was in the shop. That was good.
It's I every year I go to Nam in California, and Stevie Wonder's generally there having a look at the gear. And every year I say to the students, I saw Stevie Wonder, he never saw me. And, and every year it's probably the best laugh I get in 12 months of teaching. What piece of gear do you wish you'd never sold?
I did have, and it came up for sale recently. I had a Gibson EBO short scale bass, and I bought it because it fitted in the boot of my Sunbeam Alpine I used to have. But I was skint and I flogged it, and I agreed a price on the phone for the bloke. I had no money whatsoever. Christmas was coming up. Got the train to the tube to where I thought it was, and the place in South Norwood, the train didn't go there. So I got a cab and went to go and pick up the money from this bloke, and he knocked me on it, and I had no money to pay, and I had a cab outside, and I had to accept his offer because I wouldn't have been able to pay for the cab. And it came up for sale, and he wanted me to authenticate it that I used it in a sex pistol, but I never actually did. So he came unstuck in the end. 20 years later. Elephant's memory, that's me. So that was good. I also had a really nice 61 precision bass that I'd used with Big E, and all the pistols reunited to it, but I got burgled and it got stolen. So I didn't sell it, but it went.
And the final question we got on our quickfire, I think, is what's the first thing you're going to do post-lockdown?
Oh, I don't know. Go out on a date.
That's a good answer.
Yeah, go out on a date. I was going to say go to the coffee shop, but I managed to do that anyway. Do you know what? Don't tell anybody, but life isn't really that much different from a sort of a musician who's sort of a bit up and down with their work. And you go to the coffee shop and there's one around the corner. I always sit outside anyway. Well, I can't sit outside, but you can just sit on the step on the corner. Everybody else who's of a like mind does the same kind of thing from a distance. It's not that much different, really. The only other thing is I bought myself a push bike, and so I've been getting around London a bit more for some exercise. And the best place to go in London at the moment is right in the middle of the town. There's nobody there. You know, like Mayfair and I don't know how well you know London and Shepherd's Market, where they filmed a lot of the Avengers. He's supposed to have lived in a mews there. And if you look at the Avengers episodes, there's nobody in it apart from the main characters because they probably filmed it like 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning. And it's exactly the same. So it's like being in the Avengers. The only thing that's in it is Emma Peel.
Well, Emma Peel.
I'm working on it.
So I've only got one question left, really. No, we didn't talk about Pointless.
No, you've got to ask about that. Got to ask about that.
Yeah, Pointless. How was that?
No, but it was fine. I shouldn't say too much about it because I keep repeating it, and it's like people say you're right to you. They say you're on Pointless again, and I write back and say, "Well, how did we do this time?" It was fun. I like doing things like that. When Slim Jim was over and staying with me, and I think my flat seems to be a B&B for itinerant American rhythm sections. Clem's goes there sometimes and stuff. Yeah, and it was like, do you want to do that? Oh, Slim Jim's here, let's do it. Just did it for a laugh, really. And I'd met Alexander, what's his face, a couple of times.
Armstrong.
Before, and the statistician guy.
Richard.
You do radio things and all that, and you bump into these people. They're kind of cool. But I didn't think we got that far. But Slim Jim did well with his American president thing. But they do call you up beforehand and ask you not, what questions you want to ask, but what kind of thing you might be interested in. So they could cater it towards Slim Jim.
Right. Okay.
Because when we first started, he'd go, "Well, I'm from America. I don't know all these things."
Yeah, I mean, I bet he didn't do particularly well on the Barbara Windsor question. No,
but he does. He's a bit of an Anglophile.
Right.
He's got a subscription to Viz magazine. And when I toured with him before, we did this Dead Man Walking thing touring around a few years back. We've got an ongoing joke in the motorway. He'd ride shotgun in my car. I like driving to gigs because it's better than sitting in the back of the van. And we've noticed that everywhere you go, the road signs don't have the full name on it. You know, we think it's wrong because if you can't have the full name of a place on a road sign, when can you have it, right? You know, and there's like Beeham and Manchester and places like that.
Peacemouth and
and S. Coolfield and all that. And we reckon there's a world letter shortage. And the Eastern Europeans and the Welsh have got all the consonants. So we have silly things like that. And I think we wrote a letter to Viz about that. And we tried to plug the gig, and we come up with like kind of £1.50 between us and the used Bazooka Joe chewing gum and all that. And they didn't print it. And then we met the guys, and they said, "Oh well, we got the letter. We remember getting the letter, but we didn't think it was you, and we didn't take it seriously. Now our Biz needs to take anything seriously." But I asked a guy, one of them, how they got going, and he said, "Well, we used to do it in our bedroom." And where are they from? They're from sort of Newcastle or something like that, and, or Sunderland. And he said we were doing really well, and their mum and dad were both disabled and couldn't get up the stairs, and they had no idea about the scurrilous things they were getting up to until a BBC film crew came down to film them, had to go upstairs, and it all came out. So then I had to start in sort of explaining about somebody in his unfeasibly large testosterone.
Yeah, see, that's where I was going to go. Buster Gonad was the first place you're going to go, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Or was it Roger Melly, the man on the telly?
Yeah, and his swearing guide.
Yeah, Profanosaurus or whatever it was.
I put it somewhere. Yeah.
I suppose the last question is kind of like a relatively serious question. Is how do you feel about your legacy when you kind of look back?
Well, I don't know. I don't look back. I try not to look back. I try and live in the present, look to the future, and doff my cap to the past. I wouldn't even think about it, apart from blokes like you asking me about it a lot. And you haven't been too bad, but some people are dreadful. Yeah, it's just what I did, really. I quite like this quote by Keith Richards. I read some while ago. Some bloke did a big in-depth interview. And he said, "One final question, Keith. You know, how much is a pint of milk?" And he went, "Oh, I don't know, man. You know, I've been a rock star all my life. How would I know?" Well, I've kind of got a rough idea how much a pint of milk is. But if you ask me what it's like being asked about Pistols, I've never known any different. You know, people have asked me since the band started, and it's just I've never known any different. So, yeah, I'm just always looking to the next song I write.
Which is fair enough. I think it's probably the healthiest attitude you can have.
I've got one question which isn't serious.
Here we go.
Because ever since you mentioned Paul Weller, and I apologise for this because there's a little bit here in terms of accent as well. I was going to ask, and obviously with the people coming in and out of your house, is it a bit Stella Street where you are? Is it a bit like, you know, Michael Caine, Nosy Neighbour, and then a whole load of celebs just popping around for coffee and
well, I don't come out for coffee, but you bump into them on the street. But there are a few people around there. Lulu lives around the corner. I nearly run her over on the zebra crossing a couple of years back. It was one of those things where I stopped to let somebody go. It was dark, and then somebody on the phone wasn't going to go. So I was going to go, and then they decided to go, and then I stopped, and then they wasn't going to go. And this went on about 3 or 4 times. I just put my foot down to go, and she stepped right out and looked at me. It was like, it's Lulu. Really, I went fast. Yeah, Ronnie Wood lives around here, Chrissy Owen. There's a thing on the canal every year. I doubt if it happened this year. The Canal Cavalcade at Whitsun weekend. And last year I was there, just walked down there, sitting on a bench with my coffee, and on the barge opposite there was a trad jazz band playing who were pretty good, and this woman came out in a sort of hyacinth bouquet hat, singing what's the song? Like Bill Bailey or or some song like that, but she meant it because she had unrequited love, but she was pissed. But it was quite funny, but the music was stomping along, and this bloke come and sat down and sat next to me tapping his foot, and I looked around, it was Baldrick.
Tony Robinson.
Yeah. So that was quite a good moment. Yeah, there's a few people around there.
Yeah, so it is a little bit Stella Street then. A little bit Stella Street, yeah.
But, people are cool. Nobody bunch it.
Yeah.
But
I like that.
Everybody's got to be somewhere.
Yeah. Well, I like that they're all around you. I think I've got a really nice image of that. It's given me a bit of a warm glow.
I've been here the longest, I think. So. I was born up the road, so our road boy.
Right. Well, I'm running out of things that we've exhausted our list. And to be fair, thank you for your time, because we were only going to keep you for sort of 20, 25 minutes, but I think we've been double that.
11:42, okay. All right, cool.
Yeah. So it's been fascinating. So we're back, and that was Glen Matlock, and what a fantastic fella he is.
Oh yeah, it's brilliant. Just amazing. Second Sex Pistol I've met. And both of them have been incredibly nice. Met John Lydon, Johnny Rotten, 10 years ago, maybe a bit more than that actually, in Toronto at North by Northeast Festival. And he was just as nice to me. He was Johnny Rotten on stage and all snarling at the press. And then off stage, he was very concerned about me because he could see I'd got England on my delegate pass. And I was really suffering from hay fever on the day. And he was just quite concerned about me because I looked such a mess. So both, yeah, I know, which is not what I was expecting.
No, not at all. No, no, you go on.
It was quite. I would say Glenn was quite interesting because we didn't talk about the Sex Pistols at all, really, and I was quite conscious about not talking about it because I struggle with this whole kind of reunion thing because what you did when you were 21, I don't want to do what I did when I was 21 again.
No, and
I don't want to be in a band with people I was in when I was 21 either. So, I can understand that when you reach Glenn's age, which I'm assuming is probably about 60, it's so far in the past that, it probably doesn't really mean anything to you anymore.
No, he seemed to have a very healthy outlook on everything with the whole, doff of a cap to the past, but always looking towards the future. Which I thought was really nice, and I think it spoke volumes when he talked a little bit about the way the world's going to change, and that he wouldn't, he'd think twice about going out this week to go and see the Faces if the original lineup by some, divine intervention was able to get together and play again and was playing around the corner, he'd still think twice about going out and being in that environment, which really talks to how where we are at the moment has affected that whole thing of live music. It's going to be a really interesting journey how we get back to live performance and whether it will ever be the way we've enjoyed it in the past.
I think it will. I think, I'm reminded of Toronto because one of the reasons why John Lydon was a bit concerned about me was because it was just after the SARS thing that they had in Toronto, which, in hindsight now wasn't too bad. At the time felt, really quite scary. And 6 months after the SARS crisis in Toronto, they had a concert in the park to celebrate it and 500,000 people turned up. I think people forget quite quickly.
Yeah, you're probably right. It was just very interesting that he made that point, which I thought was fascinating. But no, I mean, what a really a real treat to spend some time talking to him, and what a raconteur he turned out to be with his stories and his kind of sort of slightly unique little celebrity village they've got going on down there.
Stella Street, yeah.
Stella Street, yeah.
It's just slightly surreal. I do want to hang about at that sort of like summer festival thing they have down the canals.
Yeah, sounds great. Yeah, great. So next week we're going to do the other half of the interviews from that day because, as you mentioned earlier on, we ended up speaking to Earl Slick for quite a while after we'd spoken to Glenn.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly thought when Sasha sort of like gave me the nod and said we could do this, that we'd get them both on screen and it'd be about 20, 25 minutes and that was it. But it turns, and it'll be edited, but we've probably got close to 2 hours worth of conversation.
Yeah.
Before editing.
Yeah. I think when I looked at what we originally had with Glenn, there was about an hour, and I think it ended up coming down. Not because there was anything wrong with the content, but the phone rang and a few other things, so you lose bits of audio. But yeah, he was very, very giving of his time, and Earl didn't have much choice; he had nowhere else to go.
No, and he did ask if we could do this on a weekly basis because it was someone different to talk to.
Which was all part of what is obviously quite an unusual thing going on in their house at the moment. But okay, well, thanks for listening. We hope you've enjoyed it. We hope you enjoyed them all so far. Actually, they've all been different in their own kind of unique way. Please leave us a review. Please subscribe. Please let us know what you think. You can get in touch with us through all the social channels, which are, Jace, I'll let you remind me.
It's the Guitar Show UK on all of them. So, facebook.com/The Guitar Show UK or at The Guitar Show UK on Instagram and Twitter.
Perfect. And you will recall that a couple of weeks ago we talked to you a little bit about the fact that we were going to put some Patreon packages up there. Just to help with support of the show and helping to sort of keep bringing the show to you as regular as we are. We haven't forgotten about it. We've just both been a bit snowed to get round to the logistics of actually building the page and all those kind of things. So we've kind of made an agreement between the two of us that we'll get on with that over the course of the next week. So there'll be an update on that. In next week's show. We need to pull a finger out, Jace. Basically, don't we? It's
yeah. I mean, I'm pretty much there. I just need to build it now.
Yeah. So we have. It sounds like it doesn't coincide with the weather being really good. So don't think of it that way.
All the daiquiris.
All the daiquiris. Nothing like that. Anyway, take care of yourselves. Stay safe. And from the lager sipping me and the daiquiri sipping Jace, we'll see you next week.
Cheers. See ya. Bye bye.
Thanks for listening to 9 to 42, the podcast from the team at the Guitar Show UK. If you've enjoyed the show, then please remember to hit the subscribe button and share with other like-minded souls. For more information about 9 to 42, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter or Instagram at the Guitar Show UK. This has been an A Short Stories production.